Assalamu alaikum grade 9s. I hope you guys all understood the work that we did last week with circuits and how current flows through the circuit and how the way the circuits are arranged, how it affects the lightness of the bulbs, all of that stuff. I hope you guys do understand. If you don't, you need to tell me before we move on, okay? Today we are doing Ohm's law. Ohm's law is a scientific law that uses resistance and voltage to calculate current. Now, let's look at an example of a circuit. Current is the electricity that is flowing, right? It's flowing through the circuit and is lighting up all of the bulbs. You understand? It's what makes a circuit work. Now, current flows through the circuit, right, from the positive side of this battery cell to the negative, okay? So if there is no current flowing through the circuit, it will not work. Now, certain things affect the current, okay? Like, for example, the voltage or resistance of the structures. Now, we are going to go into detail with resistance in the next chapter, but for now, you just need to know that resistance is the ability of certain parts of the circuit to reduce the amount of electricity that flows through it, okay? So all of these parts here offer resistance, right? That means that they reduce the amount of current flowing through it, but some parts reduce it a lot, while some don't reduce it much. So when the current is reduced, we say it offers a greater resistance, okay? We will discuss it more in detail in the next chapter. Okay, so that is what resistance is. It is the ability of certain parts of the structure to reduce the current that flows through it. Now, voltage is basically the amount of power in the circuit offered by the batteries or the cells. It is the source, okay? It comes from the source. How much of energy is provided by the source, okay? Right, so let's look here. When we are calculating Ohm's law, this is the formula that we will use. Please take it down. Right, I is represented by the current, okay? The V here is the voltage and the R here is the resistance, okay? Please don't get confused. These are the symbols that I use to represent them. However, when we are calculating the current, the voltage, and the resistance, we have units of measurement. Just like how we have centimeters or joules, we have units of measurement. So when we calculate the current, we represent it by the letter A, which means amps. So maybe we have 50 amps of current. When we represent voltage, we represent it by V. For example, we have 50 volts that are, the voltage is 50 volts. Right? Then we have R, which is the resistance. And when we calculate the resistance, we calculate it in ohms. This symbol here is ohms. So we may have 50 ohms. Okay? Please don't get confused between these letters. These are just the units of measurement. This is the symbols that we use to represent it. Okay? Now, whenever we are calculating it, we will always use this formula here. Okay? You are allowed to use a calculator. So if we are given the voltage and resistance, we will write it as is, okay? If we are given the current and the resistance, then we will say that the voltage equals the current times the resistance, okay? If we were only given the voltage and the current, then we will say the resistance equals to the voltage times the current in order to get our resistance. Now, in this example here, you are only going to be calculating the current, okay? A few things that you need to know is that we use an ammeter, okay, to measure the current, and we use a voltmeter to measure the voltage, okay? Here is an example of ammeters. Right, this is an analog ammeter. This is a digit multimeter. Okay, you will take down the the definitions over there, and here are voltmeters. Okay, here's a voltmeter here. Okay, in the next period I will be discussing this with you more in detail. Okay, right, so for example here we need to calculate the current, so we are going to say voltage over resistance, so we are going to say 10 over 2. Your answer is going to be 5 amps. Okay, if you don't understand, let me know and I will explain it to you, but for today you are only answering this activity here. Okay, assalamu alaikum.